Hello, everybody, and welcome to the new episode of Show Us Your Kit, the podcast where we're collecting stories from all of the 92 EFL clubs. Today, we're joined by a Fulham fan, Matt from the Fulham Focus. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, okay, thank you. I bet you're still delighted following your promotion.
Yeah, still haven't quite got over it yet, but I'm 90% sure that'll all go away when the fixture list comes out and it's Man City away and Man United at home to start the season. Once that kicks in, then it's going to be a whole different scenario of, oh bugger, we've actually got to go and do this, don't we?
But just before we get going, just tell us about the Fulham Focus podcast and where people can find you.
Sure. So the Fulham Focus podcast is just basically, it's not just a podcast. We also offer a website which does Q&As with former players. There's, blogs and articles and all that sort of stuff. But the main focus is the podcast. So you can find us on iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts, SoundCloud as well. But we're also on Twitter, which is at Fulham_Focus.
Lovely stuff. Lovely. So let's just come back to that promotion then this season. Was there any part of you that it felt bittersweet having not being there at Wembley to watch them win the playoffs again?
It only became bittersweet once we actually won the game, because given who we were playing, it was very much the worst case scenario if we hadn't have won. So it's how much do you weigh up, losing to Brentford or beating Brentford? I sort of said in the build-up, the pain of losing sort of outweighed the positives of winning just because of who it was. You as a Wolves fan, I don't know who you're most hated. Is it West Brom for you lot?
Yeah.
I was going to say, so the West Midlands and the football rivalries, it's a confusing place. So I'm never 100% sure. But yeah, it's like if you were to lose to them in the playoff final, the thought of that probably outweighs beating them just because you don't want to lose to them so much. But yeah, we got around it in the end, and we get to spend next year above them. So that's really all that matters.
Yeah. So how does it feel then going into this season? If you compare it to your promotion in 2018, do you feel more confident now coming into the Premier League? Do you feel like you've learned from those errors?
That's really going to be the big question. Scott Parker and Tony Khan have come up with the good sound bites of we're not going to spend massively. And if you look at some of our targets in the first couple of weeks, Harrison Reed being our key engine from the in the middle of midfield is being linked for an £8 million move. Anthony Robinson, the guy from Wigan, for a £1.5 million move. It seems like we're going that right direction, rather than spending 25 million and 30 million on Anguissa and Seri, who were more or less flops in the Premier League. So hopefully we have learned the lessons, but only time will tell about whether or not those promises actually come to fruition.
And what are your hopes then for next season? Can you see yourself pushing on to more than just staying up, or is it just let's consolidate?
I think it would be cliche, but I think the target is 17th just because of the way that everything's gone around. Teams that are in the playoffs usually are at a bit of a disadvantage because of the lack of time they have to prepare compared to the other promoted sides. And given the turnaround time now, even though the transfer window has been extended, just if you want to hit the ground running, you've got to get things absolutely spot on to start with. So I think given the challenges that we're likely to face in the first couple of weeks, especially if we get a couple of the big teams, then we're really backs against the wall. So that's why 17th, as I said, it's a cliche, but it's really all we can hope for at this stage. We're certainly not going to do a Sheffield United, but we're certainly a long way away from that.
Well, you say that now, but stranger things have happened. Nobody predicted Sheffield United to do what they did last season. But give us a couple of names to look out for, because I think there's quite a few younger players who've come through perhaps this season that we might not recognise next year.
Oh, names to... I don't know, because the players that we have were sort of big names in the Championship. So it's not as if there's any sort of hidden gems. And even the likes of Josh Onoma, who's come through, he's had some time in the Championship as well. And because he came from Spurs, there's a bit of a name factor. And the way that he performed so well in the latter stage of the season, I don't think there's going to be many, surprises in that sense. My only sort of outside guess would be Ryan Sessegnon's younger brother, Stephen,
right,
who I think could be set for a big I think he'll be set for a big breakout season this year, depending on how the teams line up. Injuries and suspension and all that sort of stuff.
The 17-year-old Ryan Sessegnon, that was the joke that season that we both got promoted, 2018, was that he was always 17. I'm sure he'll be 17 for the rest of his career.
Much in the way that Jesse Lingard is, I'm sure, still 23.
Yeah.
He's still young Jesse Lingard.
Yeah, exactly. Right, let's have a look at your first kit then. So you've picked a Fulham kit from 2006, 2007. Tell us the story behind why this one is so special.
Yeah, so this one's special for a number of reasons. For who's on the back, which is Brian McBride, for one reason, if I just position it correctly in the webcam, but also how the kit came about, because it was the first season and only season, as you'll find out why, for our kit provider, which is ANS, which is a name I'm 90% sure every single one of your listeners will not have heard of. And good reason for that, because they were terrible. We just come off a deal with Puma, I think it was, and then we just say, we're getting a kit deal with ANS, some French company who I think mainly do footwear, and you can tell why. And there was a big mess up, a big confusion when they delivered the kit, because I had pre-ordered the new home kit, white, basically the same as this, but colours reversed. White where black is, black where white is, because I'd always loved that, like the white home kit. But there was a mix-up in delivery, so those who had pre-ordered the home kit were given a voucher to exchange for an away kit, which was fine. I quite like a black shirt, so I was fine with it. But the mess up just kept on going, because I don't think we actually got the shirt until like October time, even though we pre-ordered it in July. Then it gets even more sort of messed up, because when I went to get the Brian McBride, my favourite Fulham player at the time, his name printed on the back of the shirt. Some reason there was a mix-up in the club shop, and when I'd given them let me just double check the size. Large, those were the days when I was a large, a large adult shirt. For some reason, they printed it on a large child shirt. So when I got out of the club shop to try it on, I'd say, hang on, this is a little bit small. What's going on here? Has it shrunk in the wash? So I look at it and it said like LS or LC, like large child. So I then had to take it back, had to wait another 20 minutes for them to do another one. And they still messed it up because it didn't work. It didn't realise until a couple of days later that, as you can see here, the C is a little bit far to the left of where it should be. There's a big gap between the muck and the B. So it messed up from start to finish. And the thing is, Brian McBride was the first player that I ever got on a shirt that wasn't my name. It's always been Baldwin. I think my Wales shirt was Baldwin 8 for Craig Bellamy. Then I had Baldwin 11 for Fulham, for Lewis Beaumorte. I then, for some reason, went for Van Baldwin when we had Edwin van der Sar in goal. Got one with Van Baldwin on the back. And the next year was Baldwin 14 for Papa Bouba Diop. I've always had Baldwin on my shirt. But for some reason, I thought this is the year I'm going to get one with my favourite player on the back, which is Brian McBride. And it's just gone through so much and it's stuck with me. So that was 2006 we got it. And it wasn't until 17 rather, that I actually managed to get it signed from him. So that's why I'm never going to wear the shirt again, because he is my favourite athlete, regardless of sport, of all time. So I did wear it for the Europa League final. It's sort of always come out on special occasions. So for most of the Europa League run in 2010 and the final. But ever since I've got it signed, it's basically just up on my wall, and I'm never going to wear it again. Just I just can't bring myself to do it. Yeah,
wow, great story. We'll come to the Europa League in a minute, but I just wanted to ask you about that sort of period in Fulham's history, 2006-07 sort of time. Was there anybody or any particular moments from that sort of time? Because you were kind of a middle-of-the-road Premier League team for quite a long time. You never really pushed for anything, or never sort of had a few relegation scraps, but you were always okay on the whole, weren't you?
Yeah, it was that season that sort of started the downfall. I think Kriska's, 2004-05 and 5-6, we were that sort of middle of the table. And then 2006-07, I think mainly because of injuries, because Jimmy Bullard, who we just brought that summer from Wigan, you saw, when he came back from his injury and before his injury, just how key a player he was. And the fact that we lost him in, I think, early September. I think it was, early September against Newcastle. Did his cruciate. He was out for the best part of 18 months. Was just a massive blow for us. And that really started the slide down the table. That's when Chris Coleman lost his job towards the end of the season. We somehow escaped through with Laurie Sanchez in charge.
Yeah.
By virtue of Liverpool resting their players out of the Champions League final. Thank you, Rafa. And then again, the summer after that, the season after that, Brian McBride gets injured in the third or fourth game of the season, our main forward. He's out until March time. So that's our main forward. So it was just bad luck with injuries and to some extent bad management as well. So yeah, those were the really negative times. Those were where we were properly threatened with relegation, and it was a bit of a shock to the system, having been we were never really in danger the 2 seasons before. So for us to then just slide down the table was quite a jump.
And then of course Roy the boy comes and takes over. Just a couple of words on him then. So he saves you from relegation with that amazing... Was it a win at Man City or certainly you came back from 2-0 down?
Yeah. It was a win. Yeah, win at Man City. We won 4 of the last 5 games, I think it was, and 3 away games on the bounce. That was it.
Amazing. And then, of course, the Europa League final and that whole run. As a Wolves fan, we had the dream of it and we thought we were getting closer and closer, but then it was taken away from us. But talk us through what that couple of months were like as a Fulham fan.
It was you just couldn't believe it, because there were all these certain times during the course of the campaign where you think, hang on, we're out of it. Going to the last game of the group stage against Basel where we needed a win, and Basel were a pretty good team. In fact, still are a pretty good team. So that's going to be tough. Then we get the first draw with Shakhtar Donetsk, who'd won the tournament the year before, and played us off the park in the first leg at Craven Cottage, even though we won 2-1. So you're thinking 2-1. If they can nick a goal, they're not going to let that lead. They're not going to let that lead slip. So this is probably the end of the run. We might somehow manage to get through there. Then it's Juventus. Everyone knows that comeback from 3-1, then 4-1 down. It wasn't really until the Wolfsburg game. In fact, no, even Wolfsburg, it was a similar sort of thing. We were 2-0 up. Everything was looking happy. They get a late goal to make it 2-1 going into their home leg. So again, you're thinking, did they just get that first goal? German champions, they know how to win. Bobby Zamora goes and scores 25 seconds into the second leg. That puts that thing to bed. Then Hamburg, incredible night. And it was that pain again. Hamburg get the first goal in the second leg, and you're thinking, Christ, how are we going to get back from this? And then the magnificent turnaround from Davison. So it was pretty emotional, ecstasy and agony, more or less every single step of the way, and then ultimately agony right at the end. But I must say, just as a Wolves fan, Wolves' exit sort of left me a little bit, again, just up in the air, because I wanted you guys to do well, because I thought you'd do well. I wanted to put money on you at the start of the season, but I just thought, with those Champions League dropouts, you could just never 100% be too sure. So I wanted you guys to do well because I thought you'd win it. But then as it started going on, I thought, if they go and win it, when it comes to teams from out of nowhere, finishing 7th and then going on a run in Europe, Fulham have sort of set the bar in that set. And I don't want Wolves ultimately trumping us and saying, and the Fulham run just being assigned to history. So there was just that little bit of me when you lost to, who was it you lost to? Sevilla. So there was just part of me that thought, we've still got it.
Yeah, well, and the way that you qualified that year wasn't it through fair play or something? Because you finished 17th.
No, we finished in 2008-9. We finished 7th.
Right.
Held off Spurs on the last day of the season. It was the couple of seasons after that, the 2010-11 season. We didn't even win the fair play. I think it was something like Blackpool or Burnley. Someone like that won the fair play award, but because of whatever was going on, we somehow took their place, and that was the less than memorable Europa League run, where we didn't exactly have the first time round we had Basel, CSKA Sofia and Roma in the group stages, so it was all magical, what a European journey. This time it was a Dens, who no one had ever heard of from Denmark, Wisla Krakow, some team from Poland, and then FC 20, probably about the 5th most populous team in the Netherlands. So it wasn't exactly a glamour tie. And then we somehow managed to, even though the teams weren't exactly as great, we still managed to get knocked down in the group stage.
Oh.
So it was, so the agony came a lot earlier this time around.
Yeah. Well, I suppose for Wolves and Fulham, both very similar kind of clubs in the last 30 years in terms of stature, to both have runs like that in Europe have both been very, very memorable. But hopefully for Fulham, they will return one day. But let's have a look at your next kit then. So I've asked for a non-Fulham kit. I did say it could be any sport, and I was shocked. We haven't seen a shirt of this sport yet. So talk us through this.
This is my Gaelic football jersey for the team that I play for. Assuming there's still a season, because the government's kind of messing things up in terms of amateur sport. Gaelic football, St Anthony's in Reading. And the reason this is so special to me is the number that's on the front, which is 63, which is my number, which is how you can find me on Twitter, at MattRees63. But for those of you who don't know Gaelic football, they're quite traditional in the way that they do things. And they like to have their jersey 1 to 15, the starting lineup, and then 16 to, I think, 25 or 30 on the substitutes bench. So it's a case of, like when you're in played Sunday league thing, you don't have your own shirt. You all have, there's a 1 to 15, and whoever has to play that position gets that shirt. Now, the problem is that the shirts are all mediums, and I am quite a larger gentleman, so I can't fit into any of them. So I thought, hang on, I don't want to, basically be struggling to breathe every single game. So I'm going to get my own jersey. I'm going to get my, double check, I think it's a double extra large. It's a 3 extra large. So you can kind of tell how I'm squeezing into the normal shirts. But I checked the rule book because I wasn't sure what number I wanted to get, because I don't want to play 14, which is a full forward, get that shirt, and then end up having to play fullback, which is number 3, for instance. So I don't want to mess up the system too much. So I looked at the rule books, and in a sort of an Air Bud situation, if anyone's ever seen that film, it was a situation, it doesn't say that I can't wear number 63. However, it is a bit of an unwritten rule that your numbers are 1 to 30. So this raised quite a few eyebrows amongst the teams that I've been playing, that I played against in the first couple of weeks, because they had never seen the number 63 on a Gaelic football jersey, not ever in their life, because it's not the given thing. So I sort of had this bit of a reputation amongst not just my team and the team we play. I'm disrespecting the rules, as it were. The tradition of Gaelic football. It's meant to be 1 to 30, not 63. But I still wear it occasionally, mainly for friendly matches. But when it gets to competitive games, then I'm forced to stick with whatever shirts they give me. So I struggle to breathe the odd week, but I get through it just about.
I've got to ask, how does one get into Gaelic football in Reading?
Well, it's been a case of I've watched the All-Ireland final, which is their grand final, their big event every year, and it's looked like a pretty fun sport. It looks simple enough. You carry the ball, you've got to bounce it occasionally, you've got to kick it occasionally. If it goes through the posts, that's 1 point. If it goes to the net, that's 3 points. Seems relatively fun, seems relatively straightforward. It is much more complicated than I'm making it out to be. I should stress that now. But it just got to a stage where it was January 2018 where I thought, I've got to start losing a bit of weight. And I could, go down the gym, run on treadmills and stuff. But that's just not me. I need to be competing. I need to be in a team sport, winning, losing, camaraderie, teamship, teamwork, social gatherings, all that sort of stuff, meeting with people. So I just decided to try a new sport. I looked up Gaelic football, who's the nearest team to me. And even though I don't live in Reading, I actually live in Aldershot, which is about 40 minutes drive away. So, but they were the closest team. I thought I'd give it a go. And for some reason, I managed to take to it like a duck to water, because that first season I was my team's top goal scorer. I think top point scorer as well. Just because I'm terrible at it, but I'm very good at getting the I'm very good at getting goals, which are worth 3 points.
Hmm.
So just very much a Ruud van Nistelrooy rather than a Luis Suarez, for instance. Just put me 10 yards away from goal, give me the ball, and I'll put it in the net. I won't do any of the running around beforehand. Just give it to me, and I'll put it in the net for you. So yeah, and I've been playing this. This is now my 3rd season, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Is it as brutal a sport as it looks on television?
No, that's the thing, because the only contact, big contact you're allowed is a shoulder-to-shoulder barge. So it's not like rugby where you can drag people down. There are the odd occasions where things can get a bit physical. With the only way to sort of tackle them is to basically slap the ball out of their hands. So if you're trying to slap the ball, you may sort of mistime thing and accidentally punch him in the face, for instance, if you mistime things. And I think I've only really seen 2 hits where someone's again gone shoulder to shoulder and someone's landed up on the ground. So this is sort of when I'm playing. So it looks physical, but when you get down to it, so long as you know what you're doing and you can avoid contact, it's pretty straightforward. It's not that bad. It's certainly not Aussie rules. I will say that that's totally different in terms of contact. That's totally different, and you've got to be mental to play something like that.
Yeah, right.
But a fine sport nonetheless.
Yeah, so you would recommend it to people. Great.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Let's have a look at the next part of the show then, which is a photo of yourself that I've asked you to send in. Sporting photo of yourself, which is this photo here. It should be on your screen now. Talk us through this.
So this is when I played American football as a youngster. This was us winning the national championship up in Doncaster. The team I played for, the Farnham Knights, won it by a score of 16-0 against the Lancashire Wolverines Colts. And it was just, I've played many sports when I was growing up. I played football, a bit of rugby, I swam, I played tennis, and I've won the occasional stuff like 5-a-side tournaments, and won the odd league and promotion when I'm playing football and rugby and all that sort of stuff. But there was just something about the national championship. Even though I wasn't a big part of the team, I was still. If anyone knows American football, I was a special teams player. I only got on for kickoffs and kick returns and the occasional extra point and field goal. Anyone who doesn't follow American football, just Google those terms. You'll pick it up quite quickly. Okay. But even though I was a special, it was just again. Back to what I was saying about Gaelic football and wanting to be part of a team, the camaraderie that you get, especially in something like American football, which I think it gets clean played out in Hollywood movies. You see like Friday Night Lights or where's it? Friday Night. What's the other one? Remember the Titans. Any Given Sunday. It gets played out in Hollywood, but when you get down to it and you play it, there are those elements into it, and the team bonding that goes on in a game. Sport like American football, I think, just trumps everything that happens in like football and rugby over in this country. So that's why that picture is sort of special to me, because as you can see, it's all of us in together. You've got the coach down the bottom in his jean shorts. You've got various coaches in the background. Everyone. You got the trophy. It was just a special. It was just a special moment, and the pinnacle of my athletic career, let's put it that way. And I do still to this day have my national championship winning medal with me here. 2009 BAFL, British American Football League Youth Champions. And that very much takes pride of place up on my mantelpiece. That has, again, I say many trophies. I can see Player of the Year for Cubs football, Man of the Match 1 week for under 13s Yorktown, Player of the Week for a Chelsea soccer camp. Sort of thing. They're all there, but pride and place is my national championship winners medal. So that's why that photo means so much to me.
I am starting to slowly appreciate American football more than I used to, because of you're not the first person who's come onto the podcast and chosen an American football shirt or picture or something like that. And what I do appreciate is the intricacy of the game and the playbooks that the professional teams have. Is that to what extent is that the same at your kind of level?
There is that level of intricacy in having to know various parts of the playbook. Thankfully, I didn't have to learn any of that. It's more complicated. The more you touch the ball, the more complicated it is. So I was an offensive and defensive lineman. So my job was literally, I was an offensive lineman. Stand there. If anyone's coming towards you, just get in their way. And then defensive lineman, there's the ball, go get it. Relatively straightforward of that. But if you're a wide receiver, you've got to learn how to block. You've got to learn route concepts. At what point do you cut in? At what point do you do a 5-yard hook instead of a 10-yard hook? When do you go out? When do you go in? Having to recognize zone versus man, defenses, all that sort of stuff. But thankfully, I didn't have anything to do with, because I wouldn't have been able to pick up any of that. The most complicated thing I had to do was work out, if ever we were running a run play, is which part of the middle linebacker the team that I was going up against that I'd have to get, and the second level. The second level is probably the most complicated I had to be, and I was quite happy with that.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next bit, which is a photo that's not of you, but is a sporting photo, and it's another American football photograph. I can't quite work out. Oh, I can see Tom Brady there. He's somebody that I've learnt about in American football. So I assume, is it the New England Patriots? Is that his team?
Yeah, that's the team that he's playing for. Yeah, it's not the team I support.
Okay.
But this photo, I'm not good at taking photographs, but I can see what a good one is. And if you just look at it, there's so many different aspects to it that you can analyze. It's just after the play has begun, so you can see how the play has started to develop. The angles of it, you can see the light coming through. Tom Brady is nicknamed the Golden Boy, so it looks as if God has shone down upon his favorite quarterback, so to speak. And if you know the history of the Dallas Cowboys, which is the team he's playing against, the history of the roof at Dallas Stadium before, the one they used to play in. They say it has a sliding roof so that God can watch his favourite team.
They say that about the Millennium Stadium as well.
They say they do. They slide it back when Wales attack so God can watch his play. Yeah, the Max Boyce song. Yeah. I know it well. But I think he took that from the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. I think that's where the sort of idea came to it. But yeah, just everything about it. The fact, as I say, you can see the play developing. You can see some players coming forward, some players going back. All the background, all the advertising, it just sort of breaks down what a modern American football game is to me. And everything in it is just absolutely perfectly done. That's why I like it so much. Even though I don't support either team, it's just breathtaking.
Yeah, it is a very impressive picture. But we're going to have to move on because we're running out of time. Zoom has just told me we've got 10 minutes left. So we'll move on to the final part of the show, which is your random piece of memorabilia. Now, we've had all sorts of things so far. We've had a lighter that was given to Billy Wright at the end of the FA Cup final, 1949. We've had ticket stubs. We've had all sorts. But I think this is up there with one of the best ones so far. So it looks like just a normal ball. Oh, you've got it there in your hands as well. Tell us the story.
Basically, this is the match ball from Fulham's last game in the Premier League before we were relegated in the 2013-2014 season. It was just after Chris David had scored quite an impressive goal, his one and only goal for Fulham. I think it was in the 92nd minute. It was certainly getting very late on in the game. We just equalised against Crystal Palace. It was 2-2. And then for some reason, I don't quite know how it happened. I assume because the TV footage you see sort of cuts out early. But my general assumption is that Steve Sidwell, our midfielder at the time, basically just picks the ball up out of the back of the net. And I'm assuming, just as some sort of souvenir, just to say, here, fans, you guys have, you've been with us all season, just boot it into the ground, someone take it. It wasn't until I sort of heard a general murmur from people going at me saying, oh, a ball's coming in, that I just thought, oh, right, there's something coming. And I had to sort of make the decision. Do I duck out the way or do I try and make a grab for it? And I just somehow leapt higher than everyone else, in the general vicinity around me. And I had to play keep away for the next 30 seconds because I wasn't 100% sure if the stewards were going to come after me to sort of demand that the ball. If this was the 52nd minute of the game, for instance, I probably would have thrown the ball back.
Yeah.
But my thinking at the time was, there's 30 seconds left. They may not even have time to restart the game. Is anyone really going to bother with looking for the ball? And the opposition keeper, whatever happens, whenever their time wastes at the end of the game, he's got to sort of look around the crowd and people throw it around the stand to time waste. Sort of stuff. Is anyone really going to bother? So I just tucked it under my shirt to make sure that sort of no one knew no steward knew where it was. Thankfully, they didn't even bother because I think within 10 seconds the final whistle blew. So I just took it away with me, and I was walking away from the game afterwards, thinking whether or not I sort of deserved this ball, because I'll admit I haven't been a Fulham fan sort of for a long time. I haven't even been a lifelong Fulham fan. I was a Manchester United fan growing up in Surrey. It's the thing to do until I was 12. So until sort of 2006 ish. I wasn't really a Fulham fan, so I thought, do I really deserve this? Because there have been, people who've been in the up and down years for Fulham, and to see them reach the Premier League was the pinnacle of their life. To me, it's just, we'll be back to the Premier League again. Other people have been through more. They were there when we were 91st in the Football League and all that sort of stuff. I was thinking, should this really go to the club, into the club museum? I don't even know if we have a museum. We haven't exactly won any trophies. Does this go in the trophy cabinet instead of something alongside the Intertoto Cup? But then in the end, I just thought, nah, I'll keep it, because I think if we don't come back to the Premier League, the value of this is just going to increase further and further, because this was the ball from the last game we ever played in the Premier League. So when we got promoted in 2018, this ball suddenly became worthless.
Yeah.
just get another Premier League ball. But I still have it up on my thing, and I occasionally kick around with it just so I can say I've kicked the ball that some of my Fulham heroes have kicked around.
I thought you were going to say at the end of that story, and Fulham were desperate to get one last goal, but I thought I'll keep on instead. And it was you who relegated Fulham. I've got to ask one thing. Then you were just saying about the museum at Craven Cottage. I've got to ask you, final 5 minutes. When everybody thinks of Fulham nowadays, they think of the Michael Jackson statue. What was going on then?
No one knows. This was during the Mohammed Al Fayed days, and if anyone knows Mohammed Al Fayed, again, just a quick Wikipedia search will tell you all you need to know. It never made sense. It was quirky for a couple of years. I personally didn't really mind it. It was there. Only the home fans could see it, so it's not as if opposition fans could come and tear it down. It was there. We got rid of it. It's a non-story these days in my mind.
It's a very funny quirk of modern football that is to have Michael Jackson around.
It was inside the ground. I don't know why we have to explain this every single time. Everyone says it was inside the ground. That's it's a minor point in the grand scheme of things. Having a Michael Jackson statue in the first place is terrible. Is not terrible to have, but again weird to have. But everyone just seemed to think that the statue naturally goes outside the ground. But no, for some reason they put it inside the ground, and we have to remind people of it every single time.
Well, that's even worse. And as well, while I've got you here as well, one other thing that's a mystery to away fans is the neutral end. With Craven Cottage, the only ground that I know of in Britain anyway, having a neutral end. What's the story there?
Right, the neutral end, I think, would get a lot more credibility if it was called by its proper name or its actual name, which is the mixed end. Because, there are games, I'm sure you have it with Wolves, you probably don't have any, rivalry or affiliation with Newcastle, say. But you may have a Newcastle United fan, a friend who wants to come to the game with you. And rather than sort of split into each other, you go in the home end, he goes in the away end, why not just sit and watch the game together? You know, Fulham aren't exactly known for hooliganism or causing trouble. So if I want to bring a Manchester City fan friend with me to the game, we can sit in the mixed area and we can, you know, sit and watch the game together. We get on with each other's fans. It's a nice day out for everyone rather than segregating. So I think if it was known as the mixed stand, where everyone could come in and sort of be friendly, then it wouldn't get the rap that it does. Because I think the mixed end is personally a bit ahead of its time. Personally, I think there will be a day when these divisions, you know, home fans and away fans, are gone effectively. I don't know when. This will probably be 100 years time when West Brom and Wolves, all Sunday get friendly. Sorry. Yeah, when they get friendly, because I'm sure they will. But yeah, there will be a time when fans can mix together like they do in rugby, like they do in cricket. And then everyone will look back and think, yeah, Fulham, yeah, they're ahead of the time there. We should have done this earlier.
Yeah. Very good. Right. Well, thank you for joining me today, Matt, from Fulham Focus. Don't forget to go and check out his Twitter handle and his and Fulham Focus as well on all the platforms that Matt said at the beginning. And hopefully we'll see each other next season for 2 tasty battles. Hopefully we're allowed in the ground by then.
Yeah, sure. Sure. That's the plan.
Yeah. But anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast as well. You can get in touch with us with any stories of your own at showusyourkitpod@gmail.com. And I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.